Good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning at 9 o'clock. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. For the next 2 hours, we're going to bring you some of the latest news coming into our newsroom. Want to start you out, though, on this Monday morning with a beauty shot of the Queen City. This is a gorgeous day. Nice morning for your Monday with things wrapped up from Lovin' Life earlier this weekend. Hopefully, if you did go out and enjoy the music and all of the festivities, you did have a good time despite the rain. But today we're off to a pretty decent start, although a little cloudy. It certainly feels like a nice spring morning. A different story, though, as we go across the pond, heading into London. It is the 80th anniversary, the parade in London, the UK, of VE Day. So live picture there outside of Buckingham Palace, where 1,300 members of the British Armed Forces are expected to participate in this traditional military procession through central London today. This is going to be followed by a fly past of current and historic military aircraft. King Charles and Queen Camilla will take an appearance there on the balcony, but you can see there, wow, it is going to rain. As you can see, those ominous clouds, some people already with their umbrellas out and people wearing ponchos, but always something to witness if you have a chance to see that there in London. Victory in Europe as we stay in Europe, Vatican City, because things are going to pick up later this week. The Cardinals have arrived in Rome. The conclave is set to start this Wednesday, but you can see off to a quiet start there at St. Peter's Square. A beautiful picture if you get to go to Rome in Vatican City, of course, the sovereign nation there in the middle of Rome. But as we get ready for the conclave this week, the world watches as we look for the black smoke or the white smoke to determine the new Holy Father for over 1 billion practicing Catholics in the world. Jay Gray is out there right now. He's bringing the latest from Vatican City. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
For the Catholic cardinals who've gathered in their holy city, the task they face is as difficult as it is important. Choosing from among them the next leader of their faith.
We are praying for a new pope.
Praying, preparing for the conclave, and talking, though not so much publicly.
It's okay.
The substance, saved for private discussions.
There's a lot of meetings, both formal meetings and what we call congregations, but there's also, even more important, the informal meetings over dinner, coffee, drinks, where they get a chance to get to know each other.
This will be the largest and most diverse conclave in the history of the Catholic Church and will be undoubtedly influenced by the man they're trying to replace.
I think there's a number of issues that the cardinals are looking at as they go into the conclave. First of all is the legacy of Pope Francis.
I'm sure the Pope will be as Franciscus, the same vision, the same dreams.
What is not sure is who that may be. He says that he's looking for the Spirit to give him an idea, as the world later this week looks for the white smoke. Jay Gray, NBC News, the Vatican.
And if you've watched any of the Pope movies, of course, the movie Conclave, which was up for several awards this year, they'll give you a sense of the drama that happens there in the 16th Chapel, as well as the two popes. Both have seen their streams go up dramatically since Pope Francis passed away the day after Easter. We want to get to right now, it is over 100 days for President Trump sitting in the White House, and Meet the Press's Kristen Welker spoke to him, sat down with him over the weekend, seeing what he has to say about tariffs, as well as defending his policies and upholding the presidency. It's NBC's Bianca Ficeni in Washington with the latest.
From the impact of tariffs
The tariffs are going to make us rich. We're going to be a very rich country.
to the potential for a recession,
Anything can happen, but I think we're going to have the greatest economy in the history of our country. I think we're going to have the greatest economic boom in history.
Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker covered a lot of ground in her exclusive interview with President Donald Trump, starting with the economy.
I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job.
The president defended his tariff policy, which polling shows most Americans remain skeptical of, and analysts say could lead to higher prices. Small businesses in particular are asking for relief, but Trump says it isn't necessary.
They're not going to need it.
Okay.
They're going to make so much money.
The president has said immigration is the most important issue of his administration. He told Welker he's fulfilling his campaign promise with mass deportations. But critics say the administration is deporting people without due process and violating the Constitution.
Some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as
I
president?
don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
The sit-down comes just days after the president marked 100 days in office, where the latest NBC News poll shows his approval rating sliding from his inauguration. Only 45% of Americans approve of the job he's doing. In Washington, Bianca Ficeni, NBC News.
A busy morning here. I want to also keep you updated with some live pictures that we are taking a look right now, updating you on what's happening there in Washington, D.C. This is a live picture of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He is getting ready to host the foreign minister with the Peruvian foreign minister, that is, Elmer Schuyler, and waiting there for the arrival of the foreign minister of more international talks, this time with, again, foreign minister of Peru. Also, a live picture now as we take a look at, this is New York City, I believe. Yes, New York City. This is a live picture. This week is the beginning of the Sean Diddy Combs jury selection. So outside of the federal courthouse in NYC, where the judge says he hopes to have a jury in 3 days. Combs, of course, has pleaded not guilty to charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. If convicted, he could face a life in prison. So a couple of live pictures for you this morning on a Monday morning. Take you back out here live now from the Live Impact studio on WCNC Plus. If you have not been following this case, an alleged incident of animal cruelty involving torching or lighting up an opossum. It was a press conference that was held last week. I want to play this presser for you now in full and get you updated here live on Impact News on WCNC+.
Case that we're working on here in Mecklenburg County. We have some information that we'd like to share with you, and then after we're done sharing some information with you, we'll be glad to take some questions. But keep in mind that there are some specifics that we cannot share about the case, such as specific names of persons of interest, specific information that we have, just because it is still under investigation, and that information is very important to us. So at this time, I'd like to introduce two other officers here with us today. We have Sergeant William Layton and Officer Christopher Blankenship here with us today. And I can get you those spellings of those names before you leave here today. So at this time, I'd like to call up Officer Christopher Blankenship. He's going to be sharing some information with you, and after he's done, we will take some questions.
Welcome. I'm Officer Christopher Blankenship of the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission Law Enforcement Division. As a law enforcement agency responsible for the conservation of North Carolina's native species, the Wildlife Commission's Law Enforcement Division is leading an investigation into an animal cruelty case involving a possum. The investigation was initiated following reports to both the Wildlife Commission and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department from concerned citizens who saw a video that was first shared on social media on Thursday, April 24th of 2025, in which a possum was doused with an accelerant and burned alive. We have been in contact with the District Attorney's Office to discuss how we will proceed, and this investigation is ongoing. We are grateful for the assistance of CMPD and their officers. We are also extremely grateful for the information received thus far from the public. We would encourage anyone with additional information regarding this incident to use our anonymous wild tip reporting system that's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. To send an anonymous wild tip via text, text the keyword wild tip along with your tip to tip 411 or 847-411. Texting wild tip removes all identifying information from a text, so tips are completely anonymous. To submit a wild tip online, visit ncwildlife.gov/wildtip and fill out the form on the webpage. We are aware of rewards being offered by other organizations. However, the Wildlife Commission is not involved in the administration of those rewards and cannot provide any further information. We'll provide an update once more information is available, and thank you again for your assistance in helping us get this information out to the public.
All right, at this time we will take any questions that you may have, but again, I just want to remind you that it is still under investigation and we can't provide specifics into some of the information or persons of interest.
What would these people be charged with when they're caught?
So we're still looking at all possible avenues into this case, but right offhand, felony animal cruelty is a Class H felony.
That'd be the only charge that you know of at this time?
At this time.
Does the suspect have any other history?
So we have persons of interest in the case, and we're continuing to look for new leads.
Do you believe this is the only instance, or there are more that they didn't post?
So we are aware of the second video that's also been surfaced, and we're working to determine if they are related or not. As far as, if there's a recent uptick in the area with this type of behavior, we don't have the statistical data or anything to back that up and can't really speak to that.
I know the investigation is ongoing, but how do you guys narrow in on the area that you're looking for the suspect?
So it comes from the public giving us so much information. So we have a lot of information coming in, and we're trying to review that information and be as thorough as possible before we make a final decision.
I know the investigation's ongoing, but was the address posted at all used to help narrow in on this, on where you are now with this?
Again, there's multiple places of interest and persons of interest in the case.
Were you surprised at all by the community outcry following the posting of the video?
It's something that our agency is taking very serious. It's a heinous act that we're investigating, and it's not an ethical way to take a wild animal. We're diligently investigating this case, as we'll for any felony case of animal abuse, of wild animal abuse. So the public support has definitely been helpful on our end to gather information, and we encourage anyone that has any eyewitness accounts or any other information to get us that information through Wild Tip.
Is there any concern of how this could escalate potentially?
I'm going to refer to Lieutenant Orr right quick on that one.
Yeah, so as we mentioned before, there was a second video posted, and so our message would be to folks, we obviously would not like for this to escalate, and we don't want this to turn into some type of a viral issue or some type of another instance where people see this and think that it's funny or that they can continue this type of behavior.
As a wildlife officer, have you ever seen anything like this before? Cases like this before?
There have been cases similar to this in the past, so it is something that we have seen, but fortunately it's not something that we see a lot of.
What do you think it says about a person who does something like that?
Well, everybody has their motives behind why they do this, and it's hard to get into somebody's mind to say what they're thinking when they do something like this.
Is this felony animal cruelty?
So there is a couple other options to this. Felony animal cruelty is one of the possibilities, but there are a few other options that we could look into. There's also the possibility of a misdemeanor animal cruelty, as well as some other wildlife-specific charges that we could look at as well. All right, any other questions? Well, again, we want to thank you all so much for coming out. As we mentioned, if we do have any further information in the future, we will be sharing that with the public. And we just want to remind folks, if you do have any further information that you think might be useful, to share it to our Wild Tip, Tip 411 at our website, or you can text that information. And thank you all again for coming out today.
Thank you.
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. Right there on your screen is a press conference from moments.
Okay, as you can hear there, that's our Nick Sturtevant in the background as this press conference was previously recorded, but gets you caught up there with a disturbing case of animal cruelty. We're back out here now at 9:16 Monday morning. I'm Jane Monreal. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I want to get to a special guest right now and talk about ALS. This is ALS Awareness Month, and I'm going to bring here Tammy Hall, who is a registered nurse at Atrium Health. She also provides the critical care for patients during their procedures. But beyond her profession, she has become a powerful advocate in the ALS community. In 2020, her husband, Lewis, who is in studio. Hi, Lewis. Shout out, Lewis. In studio now. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran, and he was diagnosed with ALS after a very lengthy journey to get really the correct diagnosis. Since then, Tammy has also channeled whatever energy she has left from work into her raising awareness. This is her personal journey as well. She has a dual journey, not only as a professional, but also as a caretaker at home. Tammy, thank you so much for joining us here. Talk to me. I just mentioned that, it was a lengthy journey to get to Lewis's diagnosis. Talk us through what happened.
Lewis woke up one Saturday morning and he said, well, my voice is raspy. And we just thought, and I thought maybe it was a cold coming on. So we kind of waited around, and as time went by, it didn't get any better. So we decided to seek professional help. At that time we did, and they thought it was gastric reflux. So we did all the things we need to do for gastric reflux, but again, his speech continued to get delayed and slurred, so we knew something else had to be going on.
Right.
So the primary doctor sent us to a neurologist, and they ran all the tests and everything, and they ruled out Parkinson, MS, all the neurological things. And for some reason, I don't know why they didn't go straight to another one, ALS, because I guess it's so rare. People don't talk about it as much, and even in the medical field, I don't think they go straight to that. ALS has to show its ugly face in order for it to be truly diagnosed, because it's so hard to diagnose. And so after that, he went to an ENT specialist, so to look at his throat, and they said he had a nodule on his throat, so he had surgery for that. Voice still continued to get worse. Right. And then we went back to the ENT specialist, and he said, oh, well, there's scar tissue from the surgery.
Sure.
And so we went back through another throat surgery. We went through swallow evaluations, speech therapy, all these things that wasn't what it was. So years went by, 3 years. This started in 2017 with the raspy voice. So I was like, we got to do something. So I asked the primary doctor to send us to another neurologist. So you have to be an advocate for yourself, and you have to keep pressing, because you have to get a definitive diagnosis. How can you continue to live with the unknown? Right. So we went, had another specialist, and as soon as we got that specialist, at that particular appointment, they diagnosed him with ALS.
Oh my goodness.
At that time, I knew what it was. My heart just dropped. I was like, my whole body just dropped.
Right.
And I tried to, and I could tell Lewis knew a little bit about it, but his reaction to the doctor's okay was, what can we do? And so the doctor explained to him that, it's really nothing we can do. It's just that, we can slow it down, but it's really nothing we can do. So it took us about a year to just wrap our mind around ALS. I mean, I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't tell anyone. I mean, I'm getting a little emotional, but
yeah, understandable. I mean, you said you kind of felt this in your heart, knowing about it. And so, what was that moment like when you received the news? At least certainty. What does that give you?
It gave me a little bit of peace, because we know what it is now and what we need to do to fight it. If you don't know
what you're fighting,
how can you fight it? So, it's hard.
Yeah.
But we are pressing through. So as you know, ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis.
Thank you.
And is also referred as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Right.
And it is, ALS is a progressive neurological disease that affect the nerve cells in the brain and in the spinal cord. And that leads to difficulty walking, talking, breathing, eating. All the things that we need to survive.
Right.
And so there's no cure for it. However, there are medications that slows the process down. And there are therapists too that you can go to help with the symptoms and stuff, because some of the symptoms that Lewis had, as you know, you hear him spoke, is his slurred speech, stiffness, cramps, muscle weakness, respiratory issues. Those are some of the symptoms that people need to know about. If you are having neurological symptoms, sometimes they go straight to stroke or Parkinson, or things that they're familiar with.
Right, that's a little bit more up at the headlines,
yes,
more popular
things. Yeah. This is rare. So people don't think to go there first. So if even a slur speech, and it will not go away, then hopefully someone will hear this and say, okay, they're rude to all these things, and I heard on this podcast these symptoms of stiffness and cramps and things like that. Maybe they could advocate and say, can you check me for ALS? No one wants that. No one wants that diagnosis.
Right.
But if you advocate, and this is what it is, then you can start treatment, which means that it slows up the progression. As you get farther in the diagnosis, the treatment's not going to work.
Okay.
So you need to get it early.
Okay.
So with Lewis, his ALS is a slow progression. Life expectancy is 2 to 5 years. Sometimes people do live for decades. So Lewis has been living with ALS since really 2017 when the symptoms started.
Right.
So he has went past, what he, 3 years, and I thank God for that.
Yeah.
But we're keeping it moving. We continue to go out to eat. We continue to go on vacations because we don't want this disease to define our life.
Right.
So we continue to do what we need to do. And his symptoms has regressed a little bit. Okay. So we still keep it moving. We think positive. You have to think positive. You have to believe that, if you start, your mindset is where it is. And then if you're not thinking positive, then it doesn't help.
You've become an advocate not only in ALS advocacy, but also in this messaging of the disparities for African Americans with ALS. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, we don't have numbers on that. We don't know if it's because we're not going to the doctor. We don't know if we're being misdiagnosed. The percentage rate is very low on Black people with ALS. Since Lewis received his diagnosis of ALS, I've learned of other Black people with ALS, and it's not many. And so that's another reason why I wanted to start this nonprofit, to educate the Black community, because it's not a white person disease; it's everyone's disease.
Absolutely.
But you rarely see Black people with ALS.
You're also being a health care worker in the medical field, Tammy. Talk to me about, how do you balance between your profession and then your caretaker as a wife and someone who lives with someone who has been diagnosed with ALS?
I wear many hats.
Yes, you do.
I consider myself very organized and very detailed. I have a calendar with everything on it. I squeeze in things where there's an open spot. But my main concern is making sure Lewis is taken care of. For instance, I had a funeral to go to in New York, and I didn't want to leave him. So you have to make preparations for someone to be there to take care of your loved ones when they're going through things like that. So it's hard, but you do what you have to do. My hours are back on Tuesdays and Thursdays for work, and then those days are for Lewis doctor's appointments. He's unable to cut his hair, so we have to set appointments for barbershop visits and doctor visits. So those are my priorities, and everything else comes after that.
Okay.
So, and then our daughters are very good with stepping in.
Good.
My mom, my friends, my family are good about stepping in.
I mean,
and
it's a whole support system.
It takes a
right?
village.
And I mean, you need to take care of yourself too.
And
right?
I do.
Okay, good.
I do.
All right.
I do. I make sure I have self-care. I make sure my hair is done, my nails are done,
You
my
look
toes
great.
are done.
Yeah.
That's my I get massage. That's my self-care. I have to have that.
Right.
Because if I didn't have it, I don't know mentally where I will be. So.
Yeah, you said that Lewis has regressed in some of his symptoms. That's positive news with something that's incurable. What do you believe may be some of those factors that contribute to that resilience?
Well, Lewis, like you said, he was in the military. He was in the military and jogged like every other day, 3 miles or so every other day. He was very fit and very into his health. So I think that has a lot to do with his slow progression of this disease. And he's still doing good. He's still walking, talking, eating, breathing. So we thank God for that. But I think, his mindset, anything that happens that's not positive, we have to turn it around and see the positive in it. Because we see other people with ALS and we see where they are versus where he is. So we have to look at the positive things of it. Even though, I'm not walking as fast as I used to do. I have to use a wheelchair, I have to use a walker, but you're still walking and you're still eating and you're still doing the things that you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
After so many years.
Yeah, exactly. And so you say you have to advocate for yourself and ask the questions. So again, let's break down some of those nuances when you see when you finally get to see a neurologist or talk to your primary, and it doesn't look like Parkinson's exactly, but you're still a little suspicious. So what do you ask and what do you look for?
So in Lewis' case, it was just, they were taking blood tests and they was trying to figure it out, what it is. ALS was not my first go-to either. I didn't know what was going on. It was the unknown to me as well. So I was leaning on the professionals to guide me down this road because the symptoms that he was having was more like a stroke or those things. I didn't think about ALS.
Right.
Apparently they didn't either, but I didn't know any other questions to ask because I relied on them. But when I realized that they didn't have the answer for me, I had to seek other professional, and they had the answer.
Okay.
So.
All right, very good. Tammy, you have a big event coming up end of the month. Talk to us about this walk.
Yes. Beacon of Hope is having their first annual walk, run, and health fair. So you can, if you have people out there that want to run, they can. It's a 3K. It's on May 31st at Mallard Creek High School from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We going to make awareness about ALS, talk about it. We have other vendors there about nutrition, so you need to know what to eat when you are dealing with any diagnosis. We'll have someone there that is a life coach that can talk to you about your mindset and how you think about things and how you deal with things in a positive way. And then we have a reflexologist, which is a person that can do your pinpoints, your ears, and this and that relates to stress and help reduce stress. And we also have a little fun with some Zumba and some line dancing if people wanted to do it. So we're gonna make it fun.
This is our kind of gig, Carlene.
Yeah, we're gonna make it fun.
This sounds like, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna
good.
make it fun. We don't want it to be sad. We want it to be educational and fun. And then we have a food truck, which will be a vegan food truck, because again, we're promoting health.
Okay.
And for the kiddos, we'll have a little water ice truck for them because they don't want to eat any vegan food. So.
Okay. You thought of everything, it seems, Tammy. And you've raised money for research and just to help people out, know more about ALS. It's important work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yep. And our theme is Every Step Matters. And what my nonprofit, what it would do for people, it helps with social groups, respite care. So like if a caregiver need a break, we will provide that for them. We also help with medication assistance because that is so expensive for a lot of people. And Lewis being a veteran, those things are taken care of for him. And I've heard from other people with ALS how expensive it is. So that's what made me think about, we're blessed in that area, let's bless someone else. We also help with equipment. Anything they need, the littlest things that they need, like just a meal for a week, you'll be surprised how much that helps. It's just providing a meal for them. They don't have to worry about what we're going to eat today. They can just focus on taking care of their loved one. So this is what the nonprofit would do for them, for other people with ALS.
I mean, you talk about getting his haircut and all those little things, they add up. The things that we take for granted, those who are, positive enough, or I should say, granted with good health for the moment that we take for granted. So thank you, Tammy Hall. It is Beacon of Hope for ALS. The walk is May 31st at Mallard Creek. Registration just $25 and all for a good cause. Tammy, anything else that we haven't covered that we need to tell our audience today?
Yes, if you want to register, you can go to www.beaconofhopeals.org. On my website, and it will pop up, and you can register there.
We also have the QR code.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Let's get that up. Sorry, Tammy and Carlene.
So that people just scan it, it goes right to the registration.
Great. That sounds great.
All right. Very good. Keep that up for a second. We'll put that on our website.
People are getting out their phones.
Get your phone out. I know you've been streaming here on WCNC Plus.
Yes.
So boom, hit it now. Beacon of Hope for ALS. Tammy Hall, Lewis Hall is here, hiding in the corner. He's shy.
He's waving.
He's waving. Shout out to you. Thank you for your service too. Appreciate you. All right, appreciate your time, Mr. and Mrs. Hall, and we just think of you so warmly, and prayers and thoughts out to you both. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Back out here, Live Impact Studio in WCNC Plus, just about 9:35 this morning. We are entering week 3 for the Karen Reed retrial out of Massachusetts. She, of course, is being charged a second time, ended up in a hung jury last year, but second time now for second-degree murder, manslaughter, and the death of her Boston police officer, John O'Keefe. We'll take you out there live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
A person's metabolic rate can impact their blood alcohol concentration because different people metabolize alcohol at different rates, correct?
Yes.
In addition, regarding the timing of the last drink, you were not with Ms. Reed on the late evening of January 28th or the early morning of January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct, I was not.
You have no personal knowledge of when Ms. Reed had her last drink, correct?
Correct.
Were you informed that Ms. Reed was upset after 12:45 a.m. when you were doing these calculations?
I don't believe so.
Did you know, were you informed that she went to John O'Keefe's house in Canton and was the only adult in the house at that time after 12:45?
Sister.
Are you aware of what type of alcohol John O'Keefe had available in his house at that time?
Sister.
Were you aware that she was waiting for John O'Keefe to come home, but he never did?
Sister.
Do you have any personal knowledge of whether Ms. Reed poured herself a drink during the hours of 12:45 a.m. and 6 a.m. on January 29th of 2022?
No, I do not.
And do you know whether she had more than one drink during those hours?
No, I do not.
Assume that Ms. Reed did have something alcoholic to drink after 12:45 a.m. Would that affect your assumptions about whether she was in the absorption or the elimination phase?
Yes, it would.
And if she did have something to drink after 12:45 a.m., what would that do to your calculations?
The foundation of my calculations would be incorrect. I would need to perform different calculations or factor in the information as it would become available and issue a different report.
Okay. So if your assumption of when she had her last drink was incorrect, you would not have confidence that your conclusions about which you testified Friday and today are accurate, correct?
Correct. There is some parts of the calculation that are intended to accommodate for unknown drinking history, but with over 8 hour time span between the time of interest and the time that the blood sample was collected, that adjustment in the calculation intending to avoid overshooting the blood alcohol concentration may or may not be enough to address that. And if new, more accurate information was available, then I would need to incorporate that in the discussion and calculations.
Right. So in answer to my question, if your assumption about when the last drink was consumed was incorrect, you would not have confidence that your conclusions are accurate today.
Correct.
I'll allow it.
Now, were you ever asked to determine the blood alcohol level of Brian?
No.
Were you ever asked to determine the blood alcohol level of Brian Higgins?
Sustained.
Were you asked to determine the blood alcohol level of anyone except for Karen Reed in this case?
I'll allow that.
To the best of my knowledge, my only involvement with this case in my unit was the request to perform these calculations on this individual.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Morning, Ms. Knowles.
Good morning.
Now, again, how many serum conversions have you performed over your years at the lab?
It's hard to know an exact number, but at least over 100.
And the ethanol reading or the alcohol reading within Ms. Reed's medical records that you testified to previously last week, what was that reading again?
93 milligrams per deciliter.
And that reading in milligrams per deciliter, is that typical for how you would see alcohol recorded in hospital records?
Yes, it is.
And specifically hospital records that you would then be asked to perform a serum conversion on?
Yes.
Now, with respect to your calculations in this case, did you perform these calculations consistent with how you have done in each and every prior instance within your work at the lab?
Yes, the serum conversion factors have been adjusted since I first started doing these, but the same type of math was performed, and I'd used the approved conversion factors that are published in our protocols with each one that I did.
Now, what is the difference between whole blood and serum?
Whole blood is blood as we think of it, with both the liquid and the cellular components as it exists in our bodies. Serum is the liquid portion of blood after those cellular components have been removed.
And how does the difference between them impact your testing or your calculations?
Because of the different water content in whole blood versus serum, that means that if we would like to compare a serum alcohol concentration and a whole blood alcohol concentration, that we have to apply a conversion factor to be able to compare those two. The serum alcohol concentration is always higher than the whole blood alcohol concentration.
And that difference, is that accounted for within the calculations of the conversion factors that you utilize?
Yes.
And how so?
The conversion factors, by dividing by 1.13 and 1.19, can adjust for the difference between the water content and therefore the serum and whole blood ratio that's observed in studies.
And that change in conversion factors, does that benefit the defendant in this case?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Or ask it differently, Mr.
Sure. The change in conversion factors recently implemented in your lab and your protocols, who does that benefit?
The question of benefit depends on the context. Speaking to the math, dividing by a larger number means the resulting number would be smaller. So the whole blood alcohol concentration numbers would be smaller when using the current between 13 and 19% factors, as opposed to the previously used between 12 and 18% factors.
Now, these conversion factors, where again do they come from?
The conversion factors come from published studies involving individuals that consumed alcohol, had samples collected from them, and their whole blood and their serum alcohol concentrations were compared. Those conversion factors are present in the protocols in use in the laboratory where I work, and they're also consistent with best practice recommendations or consensus body documents in the field that I work.
Now, you were asked on cross-examination about a number of different factors. Are those factors incorporated within the conversion factors in the published scientific literature supporting those conversion factors?
By basing it on studies with a large number of people, that's the intention, is to capture the interpersonal differences and different factors within that range that's used.
Now, if you know how much in the elimination phase, as far as bladders are concerned, how much loss of alcohol is concerned in the elimination phase with reference to bladder loss?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I don't think I understood the
Poor question. Let me
phrase.
rephrase. So you were asked some questions on cross-examination about how frequently someone uses the restroom in the elimination phase, correct?
I believe I was, yes.
Right. And do you have any idea from your training and experience as far as how much alcohol is typically lost by an individual during the elimination phase through the bladder?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I do.
Okay, you can answer it.
Less than 5%. The vast majority of alcohol is eliminated from the body by an enzyme that breaks it down from alcohol into carbon dioxide and water. I can't remember exactly how much is generally eliminated, but I believe it's less than 5% of the total blood alcohol concentration.
Now, you were asked about whether or not the defendant had a drink after 12:45 a.m. Do you have any evidence that the defendant did, in fact, have any alcohol to drink after 12:45 a.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
If there was a drink at approximately 1 a.m., what kind of impact would that have on your calculations?
It would depend on how much had been consumed. If any alcohol had been consumed, then it would adjust the calculations depending on that information.
And what I'm asking, Ms. Knowles, is if there is a slight differential in the time of incident or last drink, how much impact would that have on the range that you're able to calculate?
I'm not sure.
Now, you testified as far as the range being on the retrograde analysis being between a 0.14 and a 0.28, correct?
Yes, I did.
Are you aware of what the legal limit is in Massachusetts?
Objection.
I'm going to sustain that, actually.
Why is there such a varying range?
Because there's such variation between individuals with their rates of elimination, the calculation used both a sort of extreme low and extreme high rate of elimination, and because we don't know the individual's rate of elimination, that range is intentionally wide to ensure that the actual blood alcohol concentration lies somewhere between it. It's intending to account for a lot of the factors that we've been discussing. It's intentionally a wide range because there are so many unknown factors, and it was so much time that had elapsed between the time of interest and the time of collection.
And based on your calculations, as far as the 93 milligrams per deciliter, what does that convert to as far as the blood alcohol concentration for the defendant at 9:08 a.m. on January 29th?
93 milligrams per deciliter in serum alcohol concentration would convert to between 0.078 and 0.082 grams percent.
And from your calculations in your retrograde analysis, what was the range that you were able to calculate for the defendant's blood alcohol concentration at 12:45 a.m. on January 29th?
Between 0.14 and 0.28 grams percent.
And 0.14, 0.28, and every number in between is higher than 0.08. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Nothing further.
No further questions.
All right, Ms. Knowles, you're all set. Thank you very much. All right, Commonwealth's next witness, please, or whatever.
Commonwealth calls Ryan Nagel.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case down here and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you for this stand.
Good morning.
Good morning. May I proceed?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Ryan Nagel.
How old are you?
I'm 32 years old.
What area of the city or the state do you live in?
I live in Canton, Massachusetts.
How long have you lived in Canton for?
32 years. My whole life.
You still live in Canton?
Yes, I do.
Do you work in the area?
I work in the city.
What do you do generally?
I do HVAC.
Do you have any sisters?
I do. I have one.
What's her name?
Juliana.
Is she older or younger than you?
She is younger.
I want you to take us back to January 29th, 2022. That evening on the 28th leading into the 29th, do you remember where you were?
Yes, I do.
Where were you?
I was in a vehicle.
Okay. Before you were in the vehicle, were you out earlier that night on the 28th?
Yes, sir. I was at C.F. McCarthy's.
What's C.F. McCarthy's?
It is a local restaurant / pub in the center of Canton.
Who were you at C.F. McCarthy's with?
My sister at the time, and then my friend Ricky and my ex-girlfriend Heather.
What were you doing at C.F. McCarthy's?
Just enjoying a night, having a few drinks.
When you said have a few drinks, did you have a few drinks?
I did, yes.
Do you remember how many drinks you had?
Not off the top of my head.
Do you remember whether the drinks you had, the alcoholic drinks that you had, it affected your ability at all? Were you impaired in any way?
I wouldn't say impaired, but I only drank beer. So.
Okay. Do you feel like you had any type of effect from the alcohol?
I may have.
Were you driving?
No, I was not, sir.
Do you remember the times that you were at McCarthy?
Probably 8, 9 o'clock.
What time did you leave?
Probably right before midnight.
When you left McCarthy's right before midnight, did you have a plan that you were going to do something?
No, I did not.
Tell us, after you leave McCarthy's, where do you go?
I was going to go home, but my sister Julie texted me to be picked up.
When you were going to go home, tell us, when you leave McCarthy's, what kind of vehicle were you in?
I was in my friend Ricky's Ford pickup truck.
Who was driving?
Ricky.
Was anybody else with you too?
My ex-girlfriend Heather.
Heather. You know Heather's last name?
Maxon.
Was she in the front or the back of the truck?
She was in the back seat.
So you three were in the truck and Ricky was driving?
Correct, sir.
You mentioned you were going to go home. Did you start to head towards your home?
Mr. Brennan, slow down a little bit for the court reporter, please.
Pardon me. You mentioned you were going to go home. Did you start heading towards your house?
Yes.
Do you remember what time you got the text from your sister?
Around midnight. I can't remember that far back.
You don't have a firm memory of it?
No, I do not, sir.
After you received the text from your sister, did your plan change?
Yes.
And what was the plan after you received the text from your sister?
To go pick her up.
Did you know where she was?
Yes, I did.
Where was she?
She was at her friend Brian's house.
Did you know the address?
Not off the top of my head, but I knew the street.
Did you know the house?
Yes.
Did you know her friend Brian?
Yes, I did.
What is his last name?
Albert.
Is he a senior or a junior?
He's a junior.
About how old is he?
I think 27, 28 years old.
Were you friends with Brian Albert Jr.?
Just through my sister.
Had you ever been to that house before inside the house?
No, I have not, sir.
Do you have any other purpose of going to that address other than to pick up your sister?
No, sir.
How long did it take you after you left to redirect and get to that address?
Probably roughly 5 to 7 minutes.
Do you know what time specifically you arrived at that address?
Right, a little before 12:30.
Is that a general guess?
Yes.
Did you look at your watch and note the time, or is this an
No.
estimate?
Just an estimate, sir.
So the estimate is you arrived around 12:30?
Correct.
When you approach the house, before you approach the house, is there a road that intersects Fairview?
Yes.
And what's the name of that road?
Can you actually, give me a second. I can't think of the name.
Okay.
Right now.
Are you familiar with any roads in that area?
Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with the road Cedar Crest?
Yes, sir.
Had you driven on Cedar Crest before?
Yes, I have.
If you're driving on Cedar Crest, can you loop around like a circle on that road?
Yes.
At some point, do the two parts of that circle intersect with another road?
I believe so.
Is Fairview, from your knowledge, attached to Cedar Crest Road?
Yes.
As you were traveling, did you travel on Cedar Crest before you got to Fairview?
Yes.
Okay, I want to ask you some questions about right before you turn on, or Ricky turns on to Fairview. As you're driving down Cedar Crest, before you turn on to Fairview, did you see anything?
I saw a vehicle coming at us. Not directly at us, but obviously traveling on the other side of the road.
Okay. And where was that vehicle traveling towards?
Us, and then they put their blinker on to take a right.
And
For them to take a right.
That vehicle was going to take a right onto Fairview?
Correct, sir.
And your vehicle was coming in the opposite direction?
Correct.
Where was your vehicle going?
Taking a left onto Fairview.
Did you both meet at that intersection?
Yes, roughly around the same time.
Who turned onto Fairview first?
The other vehicle.
How did that happen?
I believe Ricky flashed his lights to let them go.
Did you see the other vehicle?
Yes.
Do you remember what kind of vehicle it was?
That was a black SUV.
When that car turned right onto Fairview, how long after did Ricky turn left onto Fairview?
Seconds.
When you came to that intersection and met that car, when Ricky blinked his lights, could you see inside that SUV?
Say that again?
When you came to the intersection at Fairview, and you said that the driver of your truck, Ricky, blinked his lights, could you see anything inside the SUV?
I wasn't really looking.
Okay. After that SUV turned right onto Fairview and Ricky turned left onto Fairview, who was in front of who?
The other vehicle was in front of us.
Was the other vehicle in front of you the entire time you saw it?
Yes, sir.
Did Ricky ever drive and park in front of that vehicle?
No, we were behind them.
Always behind it?
Always.
When Ricky pulled up to Fairview, where did he stop?
Right in front of the driveway of the Alberts house.
You were in the front passenger side of the truck?
Correct, sir.
If you looked directly outside that window, what would you have seen?
The driveway and the house.
The other vehicle, did it stop at the driveway?
No, it was probably like a car length in front of us.
So it was in front of you?
Correct, sir.
Did you ever see that car stop at the driveway?
At the driveway, I don't recall.
Did you wait before you got to Fairview, or did Ricky drive directly to Fairview after he took the left?
Well, he turned the left onto Fairview.
Okay. Did he wait, or did he drive directly to Fairview?
He drove directly there.
Okay. The car in front of you, did you ever see it move behind you in front of the driveway?
Behind, it was in front of me the whole time.
And so I'll ask the question again. Did you ever see that SUV stop at the foot of the driveway?
No, but I did see the brake lights. It looked like it moved, but it wasn't. So the brake lights are on. They released them and then stopped again. So it probably moved another car length up.
How many times did you see the brake lights on?
Just once, sir.
After you stopped at the foot of the driveway, did you keep your attention on that SUV?
Not really, no. I was more concerned about my sister.
So you weren't studying it?
No.
Were you making any notes or trying to mark its direction of travel?
No.
But you do know, or do you have any doubt that it was in front of you the entire time?
Yes, it was.
When you pulled to the driveway, did you go in to see your sister?
No.
What did you do?
I texted her saying we're here, and she came out, opened up the door. She looks at me and Rick and said, "Hey, do you guys want to come in? For a drink or whatever." And I looked at him, looked in the back seat, asked Heather. We said, "No, we're all set. We're going to go home." And so she decided to stay.
So the idea was to give her a ride home. You did not give her a ride home?
Correct, we did not.
Let me ask you some questions. Before your sister came out of the house, do you remember how long you waited for her?
For roughly 2 minutes.
Okay. In its entirety, how long was that truck parked at the foot of the driveway in front of Fairview?
Like closer to 5 minutes, sir?
Is that an estimate?
Yes, I'm just guessing from what I can remember.
Did you mark the time in any way? Look at your watch in any way?
No, sir.
That's your general memory?
You're just roughly trying to remember.
When you looked up at the house, did you see there were more than one door?
Yes, there were two doors. Yes.
Do you remember what door your sister came out of?
She came out of the side door, which is to the left of the garage.
Did you watch her?
Yes.
Where did she walk? From where to where?
She walked out of that door down the driveway towards us.
When she reached you, how did you have a conversation with her if you were in the truck?
I opened the door, my passenger door.
As you were speaking with her, were you watching anything else, or was your attention directed to your sister?
Nope, just on my sister.
At some point after your sister turned to go inside, did you wait for her, or did you leave right away? Or did Ricky leave right away?
We waited for her to get back into the house.
At any point before your sister went back in the house, did you see any lights, like dome lighting, come on inside that SUV?
Yes, I did, sir.
Before or after your sister went in the house?
Roughly like as she was getting in the door.
Before you ended your conversation with her, did you see the dome light go on in that SUV?
Say that again, sorry.
Before your sister left the driveway, did you see any dome light on in the SUV?
No, I wasn't looking.
Your sister began to walk back to the house. What was your direction? What was your attention focused on?
Mainly on her. We were pulling away from the driveway and kind of just glancing back over at Julie to make sure she got in.
When your sister went back up the driveway to go in the house, when was the next point you had any chance to see the SUV?
When we were passing it.
When you were passing the SUV, where was it located in relation to the house, flagpole?
Directly in front of the house.
Okay. Was it anywhere near the flagpole as you drove by?
Probably like a car length from that.
A car length from the flagpole?
Yes, give or take.
Is that the middle, right, or left side of the house?
That would be towards the left side of the house.
As you drove by that SUV, what was your primary focus?
My sister, sir. Like watching her get in.
You were being attentive to her getting in?
Correct, sir.
As you watched her get in, did you glance or see anything else in your vision as you were watching your sister go into the house?
I saw that there was a woman in the driver's seat of the black SUV in front of me, sitting there with her hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2.
Did you get a good enough look that you would remember who that person was, or was it too brief to identify the person?
It was too brief, sir.
You saw the person in the SUV with their hands on the wheel. How did you see them inside the car?
Their dome light was on.
Do you know how a dome light comes on in a vehicle?
Yes, sir. Either you press it yourself or if there's a door open.
When you had the glance or the glimpse of the woman in that SUV holding the wheel, you said 10 and 2?
Correct, sir.
Could you describe for us what that means?
Just like a clock, just the hands on the clock, like 10 and 2.
If I may. I was just waiting for the siren, Your Honor. If I could show Exhibit 3 to Mr. Nagel. Sir, do you recognize that address?
Yes, sir.
And what is that address?
That is 34 Fairview Road.
Do you recognize the flagpole?
Yes, I do, sir.
Thank you. When you drove by and you said you saw a woman sitting in the front and the dome light was on, did you see anybody else in the car?
No, sir.
Were you looking for anybody?
No, sir.
Could there have been somebody else in the vehicle at that time?
There could have been, yes.
Could there have been someone standing outside the door?
Yes, it could have been.
When you saw the person, were you studying the person?
No.
How long of a time did you have to take a glimpse of that person?
5-10 seconds, maybe.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you some questions about the entire time you were parked at the foot of the driveway until the point that you left Fairview. from when you first stopped at the driveway at Fairview until the point that you left and were no longer in front of that property, did you ever see any person get out of that SUV that was in front of you?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody, any man, ever cross the front yard towards that home?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see any man ever enter or stand in that front door?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody walk across the front yard to the side door?
Objection. I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody enter that side door other than your sister?
No, I did not, sir.
As you were parked at the driveway the entire time, that generally 5-minute time, did you ever see anybody get out of the SUV and walk down the street towards the driveway?
Objection. I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see anybody walk past your truck and up the driveway?
No, I did not, sir.
Did you ever see any person other than your sister outside of those vehicles the entire time that you were at Fairview?
Objection. I'll allow it.
No, I did not, sir.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Yannetti?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You testified about having seen a black SUV before the vehicle that you were in entered Fairview Road at around midnight on January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct, sir.
Objection. That's not facts and evidence.
That's okay. The witness's answer is what matters. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
You first saw that black SUV when it was coming toward your vehicle when you were on Cedar Crest, correct? I'm sorry. Let me repeat that because of the siren. You first saw that black SUV when it was coming toward the vehicle that you were in on Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct, sir.
Your friend Ricky D'Antonio was driving at that time?
D'Antano, sorry.
D'Antano?
Yes.
He was driving at the time?
Correct, sir.
Mr. Yannetti, thank you.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Ricky doesn't drink, correct?
He does.
He wasn't drinking that night.
He may have had one or two.
Okay. But he appeared to be driving safely?
Yes, sir.
And you also had a chance to observe the black SUV at that time as it was facing you, correct?
Yes.
When you saw it on Cedar Crest, you didn't know who was driving it at that time, correct?
No, I couldn't see.
But your observations of the black SUV at that time were that whoever was driving it, that person appeared to be driving safely as well, correct?
Yeah, I would assume so, yes.
One of the first things you noticed about the black SUV was that it was in front of you on Cedar Crest, and both Ricky's F-150 and the black SUV were basically converging on Fairview at about the same time?
Yes, sir.
The black SUV appeared to be going at a safe speed?
Yes.
It appeared to be properly staying within its lane?
Yes, I would say, yeah.
And when it was time for Ricky to take a left onto Fairview, he actually put on his left blinker, or not left blinker, but both his blinker, flashed his lights to signal that it was okay for the black SUV to cut in front of it, correct?
Yes, sir.
And he actually did have his left blinker on at that time, correct? Prior
Yes,
to
sir.
doing that? And the black SUV had its right directional on, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when both cars have their directionals on, indicating they're going down the same street, the black SUV did not suddenly cut in front of Ricky's vehicle until the flashing of the lights, correct?
Correct, sir.
Both cars appeared to be operating safely, correct?
Correct, sir.
And once the lights were flashed, there was nothing about the operation of that black SUV that told you that the driver appeared to be confused about what the flashing meant, correct?
Correct, sir.
The black SUV didn't hesitate at
You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We're going to take you away from this court trial in Massachusetts right now to an event that's happening in our backyard. This is Mecklenburg County. It is a hurricane preparedness event along the Catawba River. Let's go to this live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Drove down through here this morning and I saw people working on their houses and their homes. And I just had a conversation with a neighbor, and for them, the hurricane was like yesterday. And I am from Henderson County, and my hometown was severely devastated from Helene. But for us, we have to remember that only 4 counties away, Western North Carolina got hammered by Helene. It's estimated that there were 6,600,000 trees down. And in Mecklenburg County, we had 87 homes severely damaged from the hurricane. So this is the week that we talk about hurricane preparedness. And I have this conversation a lot with folks, and they'll say, well, when was the last time we had a hurricane that came through Charlotte? Hurricane Michael was a good example, Hurricane Florence, obviously. But we always have to remember that in 1989, we had Hurricane Hugo. And Hurricane Hugo came through as a Category 1 storm through Charlotte, North Carolina. And at the time, we had roughly less than half the population that we have today in Charlotte, and of course a lot in the county. So a lot of people don't have that memory of what it was like. For Hurricane Helene in the mountains, many people did not have power for 2 weeks, 14 days. And so today is the day we want to start talking about preparedness. You have to put yourself in you have to think about a situation where you're going to have to take care of yourself and your family for up to 72 hours. And so what we encourage everybody to do is make a plan. And what does that mean, make a plan, get prepared? Start to put supplies aside and think about what you would need for the first 72 hours without power, without the ability to go to the store. And you want to make sure your family knows what the plan is if you lose communications. For the mountains, there was nothing. There was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no communication whatsoever, and there was no power. And so when they got up there, it literally was like going back to the 1800s for a period of time. That can absolutely happen in Mecklenburg County, and so we want to prepare for that. We want you to follow us on social media, follow Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management. I believe we're pretty much on all platforms, but also follow your local news media. And I always tell everybody, have at least 3 sources for following weather, whether it's National Weather Service, your favorite media, your favorite meteorologist, but keep up to date. And don't go by, a lot of folks will say, well, the last 3 storms weren't as bad as they thought. Well, Helene was way worse than we thought it was going to be. And there are other examples. The blizzard of '93 was a good example. Way worse than the meteorologists thought it was going to be. They are forecasting what they think is going to happen. We don't know what actually happened until after the storm. And then we're having to deal with it and cope with it. For us to be resilient, it means we have a plan. But personally, and for your businesses, and businesses aren't left out of this either, make sure that you're keeping all your records and that you have those backed up in multiple formats. Also encourage your family members to have plans. Your elderly neighbors, make sure you're talking about it and what you think is going to occur. I'll stop there for you guys.
I guess you guys have probably had meetings since then. What have you guys learned since Helene, and do we kind of take that for granted that, oh, it's a hurricane, it's not going to hit us directly? It did.
Oh yeah, so Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management works every day. That's all. This is what we do. We plan for all the things that are bigger than your normal day-to-day emergency. So the police department, fire department, medic, they do a great job. But for emergency managers, we talk about catastrophes, we talk about disasters. We're looking at all the things that we don't think about on a daily basis that will stretch our resources here in Mecklenburg County. And we have great resources throughout the state, but there are times, and Helene was a good example of that, when there are not enough resources to go around, whether those are rescue resources, CMPD, etc. And so we have to make those coordinations. So we talk about this all the time. We've had extensive discussions with our meteorologists, with the National Weather Service, and we're always looking at the last storm. So in 2019, this same area that we sit today had devastating flooding, and then they had it again last year. So We have a great stormwater program here in Mecklenburg County, and we're working on buying a number of the houses out and restoring them just as we sit here today on a lot that at one time had a dwelling on it that no longer does today. And so we identify that, and that's what they call hazard mitigation. So we're mitigating the hazard so that the next time, hopefully, we don't have the same outcome.
One of the biggest lasting issues up in the mountains was the supply of potable water and making sure that they had like clean drinking water.
Yes, ma'am.
What is being done to protect our water here?
So that's a question for the water department. But what I will tell you is, Charlotte, everybody, and I was talking about this morning, we have great water. Charlotte Water is an amazing asset that we don't really talk about enough because we take it for granted. But I'm going to allow Charlotte Water to talk about what they do. But yeah, we have amazing people at Charlotte Water. You want to talk about?
Could you repeat your question again?
Yeah. So in the mountains, one of the biggest, like, longest lasting issues was the availability of potable water because of all the debris and gunk and stuff that got into their system. What's being done to help make sure that we continue to have access to good, clean water if one of these major storms comes through?
Sure. So Charlotte Water, I'm with City Stormwater Services. So I know that Charlotte Water has a lot of mechanisms to make sure that this is not going to happen. We have a filtration system. We always communicate with our partners just to let them know that we are making sure that all these that our waterways are clean, that our stormwater system is clean, and there's not going to be any flooding to any of flooding risk to any of our residents. So we want to make sure that everyone is prepared. We have Charmec alerts. We have we have the information on our website as well. Stay prepared. Have all your materials ready in case a storm hits. So charmec.org, charmec.gov, definitely. That's where we would like our residents to go and get their information. Yep.
Just say your name. Yeah.
It's Janice Mukia.
Spell your last name.
Mukhia.
Charlotte Water?
Yes. City Stormwater Services. Yes.
And I'll add to that a little bit. So Charlotte Water has their own emergency management program. Their director and their deputy directors work very closely with Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management. They have representatives that are in the EOC. And for Helene in particular, we did send a number of resources to assist with water departments in the mountains, one of them being Asheville Water, because they were devastated. But I think she hit on a very important part of this, which is to make sure you sign up for Charmec alerts, because one of the issues they had during Helene was they couldn't get information out to the public that the water systems had been impacted. And so my family was part of that. They did not know that Hendersonville water had been severely impacted. We do a great job here, but a lot of things that we take for granted here because we are a major metropolitan city don't always occur in other rural areas in North Carolina. So we are blessed. And I always say that we are blessed here at Mecklenburg. But I always think of this, the systems can fail. And so we had that during COVID. We had a number of things. We were deeply impacted here in Mecklenburg County. We're always going to make it through. We're always going to make it through, but it is important that you stay connected, that you're getting information. If it's government, you're getting information from the government, and always know that emergency management, we coordinate resources and we coordinate agencies and governments within Mecklenburg County and work very closely with the state and federal to get us what we need to get back up and running here in Mecklenburg County. But the private sector is incredibly important to that, incredibly important. And so a lot of the big companies that we all visit on a regular basis and do our shopping, if we can support them and get them open, that helps with a lot of areas as we work through disasters. We always want to return to normal. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get there.
I'm sure you talked to some residents over the last few weeks. Are they going to be better prepared now, or saying, I'm not going to let that happen again, I'm going to do this time?
They are. I think for Helene, whether it's here in Mecklenburg County or in the mountains, and remember, and when I say the mountains, we're talking like 50 miles away from here, right? And so the importance, number one thing you can always do to make sure that you are prepared is to make sure you have proper insurance. Your insurance is incredibly important because the government is not going to bet. The government, FEMA is not going to replace your insurance. That is on the individuals, and so you want to make sure you have proper insurance. And if you need flood insurance, you want to make sure that you are signing up for the flood insurance. If it rains where you are, you probably need to consider if you need flood insurance. For us here in Mecklenburg County, one of the things that I'm very proud of for Charlotte and Mecklenburg County is our emergency management program and how we are resilient and prepared. And when I say emergency management program, it's not just Charlotte Mecklenburg Emergency Management, it's all 6 towns, the county and the city working together. We work tirelessly, we're always training, we're always exercising. All the managers from the 6 towns, the county manager, the city manager, they lead the way to make sure that we are resilient here in Mecklenburg County. We're all talking all the time. And then whenever something happens, we open the Emergency Operations Center and then we're coordinating for our city and county.
Sitting here now, it's serene, it's quiet, but if a storm comes in, don't let that fool you. Just be prepared and be ready.
That's right. Always be prepared and be ready. And just as you saw on Saturday, I looked at the weather on Wednesday, and they said it's going to be a beautiful weekend, right? And we're like, oh, we're going to have love and life. It's going to be great. And then surely it changed, and then we had a number of storms come through on Saturday, right? So we had like 3 or 4 lines of storms that came through on Saturday, and that is a good example of making sure that you have the latest weather, making sure that you have good situational awareness for yourself. We've all been there, right? We've all been in an event, and a storm popped up, and we said we had no idea that a storm was coming. We should have paid more attention.
Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to ask Alex Mill with Charlotte Mecklenburg Stormwater Services to come up and talk about flood insurance.
Hello. For those of you who don't know me,
Just say it's what your name first.
I'm the new John Wendell. My name's Alex Moore. Yeah, I can always adjust. I know you guys have to redo all these camera shots. Yeah, I'm with County Stormwater Services, which it's fun because John Wendell was a meteorologist with WCNC, and I did some on-air meteorology stuff too. So we have quite the similar background. I just graduated from UNCC like 6 years ago, so got to do all the fun meteorology stuff. But yeah, I don't have a lot to talk about other than
Just how are you guys preparing for this hurricane season
Right.
versus last year, maybe?
Well, each year the hurricane season kind of presents the same kind of challenges, but they're all going to be individually different. We see hurricanes approach from the Carolina coast. We've seen them approach from the Gulf, and they've all presented their different challenges, whether it be wind or flooding. One of the biggest issues that we've always seen with every single hurricane is the flood aspect of it and the loss of life due to flood. One of the things that stands out with Hurricane Helene was the 86 direct deaths that were present in North Carolina as a state. 78 were attributed to freshwater flood related deaths. So it was double the next state. I think Tennessee had a couple dozen in that same category. But the freshwater flooding, that stuff, it's not only the biggest killer when it comes to natural disasters in terms of weather related stuff, but it's the most expensive because it happens so much in so many different ways. We see it with hurricanes, we see it with pop-up thunderstorms. These kinds of weather events drive a lot of these issues that we find. And some of them, we don't see them until it happens, and we kind of reassess what happened, go back, and then mitigate going forward, which is what we're essentially doing. A lot of what you see along the river here, a lot of these houses, they looked great, but one storm comes through, wipes out dozens of them, and then you kind of have to pick up and move on and deal with what you got to deal with. But knowing your risk is probably the number one thing I would push, is that if you're going to live in an area where you think there is flooding, understand that risk. We have a website with Stormwater Services where it's a 3D floodplain mapping, so you can literally look property by property if your property's in that floodplain. And if it is, you can potentially get up to a 40% discount on your flood insurance premiums. So kind of go hand in hand with the job that we're trying to do, taking properties out of the floodplain. We get points that goes towards our community rating system score, and then that helps us get 40% off, up to 40% off premiums for flood insurance policies. So if you're in Mecklenburg County, Pineville, Davidson, they're also in that same situation, but they're a class 5, so they get up to 25% off their flood insurance premiums. So if you're in a floodplain, if you don't know if you're in a floodplain, you can Google Charmeck 3D flood zone, and it'll tell you, type in your property, it'll tell you exactly if you're in it or out, and then you can go from there to see if you're actually qualified to get up to that 40% off for living in a floodplain for your flood insurance. If you're not, you still can get up to 10% if you're not in a floodplain on your insurance premiums for any flood policies through the National Flood Insurance Programs. If you live in an area where drainage is an issue, obviously we want to hear about that. 311 is a great way to communicate with us. We want to make sure that the drainage issues are fixed. Like you said, the potable water issue, that's one of those things that pops up during the storms. It's an issue. Is it infrastructure? Is it simply just getting people out there and fixing the issue, or is it a total overhaul needed sort of situation? Is it response? Is it our water quality up front? We like to ask those questions and then reassess after the storm to make sure that whatever happened before doesn't happen again, because these storms are going to happen. We want to mitigate our losses as much as possible.
Would you be able to share what the status is on the buyouts here on Riverside?
Yes. So our county stormwater services have bought 17 properties. We're still negotiating with 8, I believe, and we've got 1 retrofit approval to raise the house. And then we've got 3 more that I think are in the works for, one's a demo, one's I think a renovation, electrical renovation situation, and then the other is another retrofit raise. So there are, I think, another 20 or so properties out there to still talk and negotiate with, but right now we're sitting at 17 bought. Anything else? Oh, I do have one more thing. Yep. FINS, our flood information notification system. So we have about 100 different sensors across all the different streams and creeks and rivers and stuff around Mecklenburg County. And if we ever do get an event like Helene, or if we start getting some of those pop-up thunderstorms during the summer, if you're ever wondering, where's the level, go to fins.mecnc.gov, and that'll tell you exactly flood stage, where everything kind of stands. And we're also pushing a product that we're developing in-house to project stream levels and creek levels in the 24 to 48 hour range, so we can kind of get ahead of the storm in terms of forecasting. So we're really trying to push that product a little bit more, because it's a great way for us to get information out, especially about flooding and current flooding too. So that's all.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
All right, it looks like that press conference abruptly ended there on the Catawba River up in northeast Mecklenburg County, northwest up towards Mount Holly area. All right, we have another witness taking the stand in the Karen Reed retrial. This is out of Dedham, Massachusetts. Let's go to this live here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
To Fairview, how long did it take after the turn?
A couple minutes.
It took a couple minutes to get from Cedar Crest to Fairview?
Oh,
That's
maybe.
okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. When you arrived at Fairview, where did Ricky stop?
Outside the house on the street.
Do you remember where on the street in relation to the driveway?
No.
The other vehicle, the SUV, was it in front of you or behind you when you stopped?
It was in front of us.
When it was in front of you, did you notice anything about the vehicle?
No.
Did you notice anything about its lights?
No.
Did you see whether the interior light, the dome light, was on or off?
I did as we were leaving.
Before you left?
No.
Did you ever see that dome light come on?
No.
Did you notice anything about the brake lights?
No.
Did you notice anything about the vehicle's tail lights, whether they were intact or broken?
Nope.
When you arrived at that address, do you know the street address?
I do not.
Okay. When you arrived at that address, what happened next?
I believe Ryan had reached out to Julie saying, we're here, time to go. And so she had come outside and we had a short conversation and she decided that she was actually going to stay at the house. She had invited us in, but I had said that I didn't want to go inside. I just wanted to go back to the house.
From the time you first arrived at that address and until the time you left, did you ever see anybody get out of the SUV that was in front of the truck?
I did not.
Did you ever see anybody travel across the front yard to the doorway from that SUV?
Nope.
Did anybody ever walk by on the street, walk by the truck in front of you or behind your truck and walk on the driveway?
No. Well, besides Julie, sorry.
So Julie is the only person that you saw in the driveway that night?
Yes.
And then you left?
Yes.
When you left, did you drive by the SUV?
We did.
When you drove by, what were you looking at?
My surroundings.
Okay. What did you see?
I saw the female that I saw beforehand, also still in the car.
Where did you see her?
In the driver's side.
Okay. Was there, at that point, any lights on inside the car?
There was, yes.
Which
The
light?
dome lights.
Was the driver's side door open?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you see anybody else inside the SUV?
I did not.
Was there anybody else inside the SUV?
You didn't see anybody inside the car?
Besides the driver? No.
Okay, next question.
Do you know whether there was anybody else inside the SUV at that time other than the driver?
No.
Did you look in and study the interior of the SUV?
No.
How long did you look inside the SUV for when you passed?
It was just passing, so I don't know, a couple seconds.
Did you see if there was anybody or a man standing outside the door of the SUV?
I did not.
I'll allow it.
Outside the door?
No.
Did you see anybody lying on the front lawn?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Before Ricky turned onto Fairview Road, you saw the SUV in front of Ricky's truck, facing it, taking a right-hand turn in front of you, correct?
Correct.
And at that point, you had an unobstructed, good look at the driver and the front passenger, correct?
Correct.
And you could see that there was a female driving and a male in the front passenger seat at that time.
At that time, yes.
Now, ultimately, Ricky's car took a left after the other SUV took a right, correct?
Correct.
And eventually, when you reached the house where Julie was, you saw that that SUV was in front of that house, parked now further down ahead of you, correct?
Correct.
And it took Julie a couple of minutes to come out of the house?
I'd say so, yeah.
Do you recall whether there was any conversation at that time between you, Ricky, and Ryan?
Possibly. I don't recall or remember what, but most likely, yes.
And you don't remember whether you were participating in a conversation or what was discussed?
Not necessarily, no.
You had your cell phone with you that night?
I did.
Like many of us, is your cell phone something that you tend to check when you're bored or there's a break in a conversation or you're not actively engaged in a discussion?
For sure.
And while you were waiting for Julie to come out of the house, do you recall whether you were checking out any web page or Instagram or text message or app on your cell phone?
I don't recall.
Can you testify with certainty that you were not checking your cell phone during that period of time?
Not with certainty, no.
And so you can't say for sure how long, if you did check your cell phone, you would have been looking at it while waiting for Julie, correct?
Correct.
And no one's asked you for your phone so that they can analyze what you were doing during that period of time outside 34 Fairview, correct?
Correct.
All right. Well, you testified that you didn't see anybody get out of the SUV or approach the house, correct?
Correct.
You obviously don't know what did or didn't happen before you, Ricky, and Ryan arrived there, correct?
Correct.
While you were parked near the driveway, you weren't thinking that you had to watch the SUV every second in case you were later asked to describe what was going on with that vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And that SUV was the same vehicle that you recognize as previously having a female driving and a male in the passenger seat, correct?
Correct.
And as far as you know, you didn't know either of them at that time?
No.
Fair to say that what they were doing was their business and you weren't particularly interested in what they were doing, correct?
Correct.
You were there to pick up your boyfriend's sister, correct?
Yes.
It was late and you were tired.
Very much so, yes.
You'd had a good amount to drink.
Mm-hmm.
You did not want to continue to drink and socialize, correct?
Correct.
Fair to say you were looking forward to ending the night at that point?
Yes.
And so you were more focused on hopefully getting Julie in the car so you could leave than anything that was going on in the SUV, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Then Julie came out, and it wasn't as simple as her just jumping in the vehicle and leaving, correct?
Correct.
There had to be a discussion,
Right.
right? And she came out to speak to the three of you for about 5 minutes or so,
I'd say.
like a back and forth about who's going where.
Yeah.
And when Ricky was pulling away, you looked over to the SUV and you saw that the interior light was lighting up the front compartment, correct?
Correct.
And it was then that you looked over and you saw a female in the driver's seat, correct?
Yes.
You did not see any person in the passenger seat, correct?
Correct.
And you certainly did not see a 6-foot-tall off-duty police officer in the SUV at any point on Fairview Road.
Correct.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything, Mr. Brennan?
When Ricky was speaking to Julie and you were in the back cabin of the truck, what direction were you facing?
I don't recall.
Were you paying attention to the conversation with Julie?
I was probably in and out of the conversation, yes.
Were you facing the direction of the house in the SUV, or were you facing the opposite direction?
I don't think I was facing the opposite.
When you were in the cabin of the car and Ricky was having a conversation with Julie, did you ever see anybody other than Julie come in or out of the house?
No.
I'll allow it.
No further questions. Thank you.
May we approach briefly?
Hi, everyone. Jane Monreal with you here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. It is the retrial week 3 for Karen Read as we are continuing to hear from witnesses at the party back in January of 2022. As that continues with their sidebar just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, want to take you back here in our own backyard, the Queen City. We are getting excited for the PGA Tour that is going to be playing out at Quail Hollow, and the folks there are getting organized and ready for an exciting week coming back to the Queen City. A lot of the world's best golfers are going to be here. But our Ben Thompson and Lisa Washington did talk to the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority, talking about how this is going to bring back an economy that is very exciting around Quail Hollow Week. No longer the Wells Fargo tournament, but the PGA again here this week. This played earlier on the stream here on WCNC Plus at 8 a.m. If you missed it, here it is again. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
But next week, another huge event takes over the Queen City. We're talking about the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow.
It's the second time the championship has come to Charlotte, the last time back in 2017, and it is expected to generate millions of dollars. Here to talk about it this morning, Sean Flynn from the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Sean, thanks for coming on a Monday morning. We appreciate it.
Hi, yes, thank you. Nice to be here with you.
Hey, what kind of economic impact are you expecting from something like this when the PGA comes to Charlotte? And also, out of curiosity, how do you figure something like that out?
Well, we at the CRVA are not projecting an economic impact for the PGA Championship, but we do know historically it has been very, very impactful. In 2017, the PGA Championship brought $100 million in economic impact to our community. So very, very large amount. The President's Cup took place in 2022, $131 million. So these large strategic events like major championships really do the job and help our community with economic impact to a great extent.
And these impacts are across the board, because it's not just about golf. I mean, even those who aren't impacted by that, it's the hotels, the restaurants, retail, transportation, businesses, large and small.
That's right. It'll be comprehensive across the community. And it's not just the visitors that are in the restaurants and the hotels and the attractions, right? It's also the direct work that the league is doing with different vendors that help support the tournament: transportation, shuttle services, parking, food and beverage, working on those hospitality locations within the tournament, local vendors doing that, housing for players and staff, and small details like floral, printing, signage. All those vendors will be very busy this week for the PGA Championship.
You mentioned the President's Cup. Then, of course, we had the ACC tournament this spring. How do these events specifically play into our city as a sports destination?
Well, the PGA Championship and events like it put Charlotte truly on a global stage. It reinforces our reputation as a premier sports city that can host high-profile events. It demonstrates the capabilities of our community to have visitors come in and have a great time in our destination. Lots of focus will be on Charlotte. The tournament will be broadcast on ESPN and CBS during the course of the week. And last year, the PGA tournament drew an average of 5 million viewers. So lots of eyeballs on Charlotte this week for this tournament.
And Sean, assuming that this is a big success, and I'm sure it will be, what other events does the city help attract with something like this being so successful?
Well, it's a catalyst for long-term growth. No question about that. We'll have attention paid to Charlotte regarding on a national and global scale. Event planners, businesses that are looking to invest will see the tournament take place in Charlotte this week and will be attracted to our destination. And it will also strengthen our case to hold future major sporting events and also conventions. There's a layering effect here as Charlotte gets more frequently hosts big strategic events like this. Again, we demonstrate our capabilities, and it attracts future events as well,
including perhaps a Super Bowl Still years away, though, years away from that. But I know that's always the ultimate goal for city leaders. All right, Sean Flynn with the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Sean, thanks. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you're not even interested in golf, it's just an exciting time for the Queen City. A lot of major sports events come in here.
You're a golfer.
I am a golfer. I missed Quail Hollow last year, Wells Fargo last year,
Yeah.
because I was out of town. That was a bit of a bummer. But maybe pop in PGA.
Yeah. When's the last time you played?
Oh, gosh. I went to the driving range a few months ago.
Hey.
When it was winter. So
You went to the you went to
when
the
there was
driving range
one
in
of those
the winter?
occasional warm days, and I hit the driving
And you hit
range.
the driving range.
But
That
now,
sounds awesome.
trying to get the game ready.
Yeah.
I know, to try to get back into it this summer. We'll see.
We'll
you
see.
know, it's always good. A nice walk ruined, as they say. The old saying is, golf is a nice walk ruined.
Yep.
Well, we're just going to take it all in stride here on WCNC Plus. Right now, I want to take you out to the first day of a trial that is happening in Ohio. Oh, this is a tragic crash. In 2023, a bus crash that happened on Interstate 70, killing 6 people, including 3 high school students. So this trial just beginning this morning. Let's take you out there live now, live on Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Sir, it appears that you were impacted at this point.
Correct.
Okay? And it looks like there's a speed.
Up in the corner.
Right. And that shows 10 miles per hour?
Yes.
And your location? So you were never stopped, were you?
No, I was coming to a slow.
Okay. And just playing this forward, tell me when that red car in front of you right here stopped, sir. It's still moving, isn't it?
Yeah, it never.
What about the white truck? Is that stopped?
No.
The blue van in front of it?
No.
The silver car to your left?
Nope.
So if someone was to suggest that traffic had come to a stop, would that be accurate?
No.
Okay. And sir, after this this collision, and before this collision, it looks like you were doing about 33 miles an hour. Is that a yes?
Yes.
And you slowed to 10.
Correct.
Okay. Is that unusual?
That is unusual, yes.
Why is that?
I was thinking I was coming into Columbus rush hour traffic.
Okay. Is Columbus rush hour traffic unusual?
Being out that far, yes.
Okay. What about these wonderful barrels that we see on the other side of the roadway?
The construction barrels.
Are they unusual?
No. Those are...
The actual road there, is that a hilly road? Is it a flat grade? How is that road?
Flat.
Okay. It looks like there's a white fog line on the right-hand side, and it looks like there's also a zipper or in the center line.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Any ice on the road, sir?
Nope.
Okay. You're heading west. This is in the morning. The sun would have been to your back.
Yes.
Okay, so no inclement weather of any kind?
Nope, it was nice out that day.
The impact itself on your semi, did that do any damage?
To the trailer. It damaged the trailer, not the truck.
Okay. And how did you find out or learn that your trailer had been damaged?
It just a natural instinct knowing being hit. And I actually went back and looked at it.
Okay. Did you at any point in time prior to this see a white Van Hool bus following you?
You're asking about the charter bus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And about where would you have seen that?
At least a half a mile prior.
Okay.
In my rearview mirror, because I knew we were traveling together.
Okay. Was the Van Hool bus tailgating you?
No.
Was the Van Hool bus on top of you?
No.
Is anything that the Van Hool bus driver doing that would cause you concern in the manner in which you were operating your vehicle?
No, I can't answer that because I focus on myself.
Okay. But what kind of weight is your semi, the trailer, and the load in and half?
I was weighted at 76,000.
76,000 pounds?
Yeah.
How would you describe the impact of the bus? Did it move your vehicle at all?
It did move, yes.
Okay. Was it a hard hit, or was it, what kind of hit on the back of your vehicle?
It was a significantly hard hit.
Okay. After the hit, and you said you pulled over to the side?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do next, sir?
I seen the fire in my rear view mirror, so I grabbed my fire extinguisher and ran to the bus.
Okay. And what did you see on the bus, or to the bus?
I seen the damage on the front of the bus and the impact on the back.
Okay.
The fire.
Had the fire started when you first got back there?
Yes.
Okay. About how long did it take for police to show up, if you recall? If you don't, I don't want you to guess.
I don't know.
Okay. At any point in time, did you become aware of something that had collided into the bus from the rear? Again, if you didn't, I don't want you to guess.
No.
Okay. Do you have an automatic, or do you have a standard?
An automatic.
Okay. When did automatics start becoming popular with semis?
It'd been the start of like 2015, 16 era.
Okay. What's the difference between the two?
One you have to shift, and the other one you don't have to. It's just like driving a car.
Okay. Is it, I'm assuming, then easier to drive than
Yes.
the standard?
A lot easier.
A lot less work on the actual driver of a vehicle.
Yes.
So with a lot less effort at work to drive a standard versus an automatic, you have the opportunity to do some other things potentially too.
Correct.
Okay. Are you required to have an ELD of any kind?
No, we follow under the, we're an exempt under 150 mile area radius.
Okay. So you don't have to log your miles or anything else?
We just keep a daily time sheet.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, and if you know, is it easier to brake or stop a semi that has an automatic transmission versus a manual transmission?
To me, it's the same.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Cross-examination?
This Volvo that you're driving, I think you stated it's an automatic, correct?
Yes.
And as you're in your 76,000 pounds roughly?
Yes.
Okay. So as you're approaching the traffic, you're slowing the vehicle down through downshifts, right?
Yes.
The transmission, you use that because if you were on the brakes all the time, you'd burn the brakes up, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're using the truck, do you have a Jake brake on that?
Exhaust brake.
I'm sorry?
It's an exhaust brake. But
That's the same thing, would you agree?
Yes.
Jake brake, they use the compression from the exhaust to help slow the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have the Jake braking?
Yes.
Or exhaust brake, I'm sorry, I'll use your terminology.
Yes.
You had that engaged?
Yep.
Okay. So that, plus the downshift of the transmission begins to bring that truck down, slow down, right?
Yes.
Okay. And would you agree, in these last few seconds here, you're going 33 miles an hour, you don't hit the brakes on the actual vehicle until about between here and that red car?
I was on the brakes the whole time, because the Volvo truck, once you step on the brake, it's supposed to engage the exhaust.
That's what engages your exhaust?
Yeah, while it was slowing down.
Okay. And were you paying attention to the red car in front of you? Did that kind of catch your attention?
Yeah, I was paying attention to the red car and all the brake lights ahead of me.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So, on an automatic, if I have an exhaust brake, so when I hit the brake, do I only have to tap it once, or how does that work?
You can keep pressure on the brake pedal, then it'll downshift and go down itself, you know.
Well, and here's what I'm asking, because on a non-semi with type of engine braking, if I'm going down a hill, whether it be hill descent type stuff, I'm assuming it works something similar to that.
Yes.
So it's a computer calculation that, you know, on a grade of some kind, once I hit it, it's going to engage that and make that lovely noise everyone loves. See, if I do that, then I don't have to hit the brakes really hard, do I?
No.
The exhaust will do the work.
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of paying attention, if I see something like that in front of me, and I'm looking at your speed again, at this point it looks like it's 33 miles an hour. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay. I got some distance there. All I got to do is let the exhaust do the work, for the most part.
Yes.
I don't have to basically plant my foot all the way to the floor with the brake pedal.
Right.
Okay. And that was a feature that was available in 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And that's easier on the brakes?
Easy, yes.
It takes less effort on behalf of the driver, if they're watching, to just hit it once, or do you have to keep pressure on it?
I keep pressure on it.
Do you have to?
No.
Okay, so if I just hit it once, will it do something until I hit the throttle again? Will it continue to brake until I hit the throttle?
It'll continue to brake till you hit the throttle.
Okay. So if I know something is coming up and I don't know what's going to happen with it, if I hit the brake once, I don't have to do anything else. The exhaust will do the work and I'll naturally slow down.
Yes.
And if I need to speed up, and I just hit the
gas pedal.
Thank you, sir.
Recross.
Verification here. So once you've engaged the brake, it engaged the engine exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the transmission's working to slow down the vehicle as well. If you took your foot off the brake, I think you just answered this, but I just want to make sure that the exhaust brake and the transmission will continue to slow that vehicle.
Yes.
Thank you.
You used the term, you were asked about the term ELD. What does that stand for?
Electronic logging device. So
keep track of your hours and miles?
Yeah, electronically instead of on the paper book.
Okay. Can an exhaust brake be activated without applying brake pressure?
It can be, yes.
It can
be, but in some trucks, yeah, they can have programmed where you need to apply brake.
Okay, but a driver can, in some situations, a driver can employ the exhaust brake without touching the brakes.
Yes.
If that happens, do the brake lights get activated?
No. Not until you press the brake pedal.
Okay. Is there a connection between the exhaust brake and the transmission?
Honestly, I can't answer that.
Let me ask you this. How does the transmission know to downshift?
When there's no...
Based on the speed and the RPMs?
Speed and RPMs, and you're not calling for power to take off.
Accelerating?
Accelerating, yeah.
Okay. So are you saying that as a driver you can activate the transmission to help slow, of an automatic transmission, to help slow the speed of the truck?
Yes. Yeah, you can manipulate for it to start slowing down more.
Okay, so by the gear shift?
Yes.
Okay, so you can, even though it's automatic,
there's a push button where you can
go to lower gear, go to lower gear, go to lower. That would that activate the brake lights?
No.
Okay. Follow up.
The actual exhaust then would come on automatically if you were on a grade going downhill?
If your foot's off the accelerator.
Okay. And of course, you're not on a grade at this point, you're in a flat level?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You may step in. Mr. Murphy.
The state would call Robert Wolverton.
Stand here, sir. Stand here, sir. Just raise your right hand. You solemnly swear testimony that you're about to give in this case now being heard is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, self you got. I do. Yes, you. Please state your full name, spell your last.
You are watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus, day one of an Ohio deadly bus crash that happened back in 2023. We took that live right now. Want to let you know that later this week, Conclave is going to start on Wednesday. That, of course, is when Cardinals will decide who the next Holy Father, the Pontiff, will take over after Pope Francis's passing back on April 21st on Easter Monday. There's a live picture right now of St. Peter's Square, and Cardinals have gathered today. They will meet and be sequestered there in the St. Sixtine Chapel, starting on Wednesday. That first vote is expected to come to us on Thursday morning when we watch for that smoke, the black smoke versus white smoke. Black smoke meaning they do not have a pope decided yet, and then the white smoke where 2/3 of the Cardinals have voted for who will be the next pope to lead over 1 billion